Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk all things major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much, much more. I'm your host, Chris, and I know I am not alone or in short company when it comes to the excitement about Game of Thrones' newest and first spin-off, House of Dragon. Yes, happening 147 years before the story of Game of Thrones picks up, we have an entire Targaryen dynasty to go through and a lot of really fun and compelling characters. With that being said, the purpose of today's video, I'm throwing out a massive spoiler warning, guys. If you don't want to know something that's already been spoiled by Game of Thrones and lines coming from different characters in the series that was the series that started it all, you should click away now because it's pretty bad, actually. They gave us a huge part of the plot, and we're going to be talking about it right now. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our other major movie and television news updates happening here on the channel daily. You can also check me out on my other socials, Instagram at Chris M. Rosser and Twitter at The Culture Chris. So, spin-off series, especially prequel series, have this bad habit of having to conform to what has already been created and said. There are a lot of different issues and navigation problems that come with creating a prequel series. Now, House of Dragon happens 147 years prior to Game of Thrones, and Game of Thrones was one of the biggest television series of all time. But with that being said, House of Dragon blew the record of the premiere out of the water with 10.5 million views within the first 48 hours, topping off at 20 million by the time the second episode had come out. And then the second episode beat that record, coming out with even more views in the first 24 hours. The second season has already been renewed, and that was just based off of the numbers for the first episode. So very, very exciting, and it does really feel like peak Game of Thrones. The overall story, the visuals, and the attention to detail is all there, and it feels really great to have that kind of fantasy and that type of plot-driven storyline back again. But with that being said, probably yours and my favorite character, Rhaenyra, who is currently heir to the throne of Westeros, has already had her fate revealed by Joffrey in Game of Thrones. Check out this clip.
Rhaenyra Targaryen was murdered by her brother, or rather, his dragon. It ate her while her son watched. What's left of her is buried in the crypts right down there.
There is a detail that a lot of people may be missing as well with this information that I definitely want to put in here as an asterisk to this potential huge spoiler, and that is there are actually two Rhaenyras. If you didn't catch it, this character is also Princess Rhaenyra, and she was referred to as the Queen Who Never Was. But the reason why I'm kind of standing strong with what we think is going on here, that the Rhaenyra being referred to by Joffrey is the main character heir to the throne, is backed up by the fact that no female ever was Queen of Westeros or never ruled Westeros. We've had queens, but there was never a single female ruler. So something is going to happen to the heir of Westeros, Rhaenyra, that will prohibit her from being the ruler of Westeros. Now, that might not be fiery death by dragon, but let's just, for the sake of this insane spoiler, assume that that is who's going to get killed by her brother. And it does make a lot of sense understanding that the entire opening of this show was about, her having a younger brother and how desperately they needed one to strengthen the bloodline. And episode 2 ended with him naming a new wife, the heir to the throne of Westeros. But that's not all, because we know she actually never becomes Queen of Westeros, because one of the big plot points following Daenerys in the original Game of Thrones series was that no woman had ever ruled Westeros. So we know that Rhaenyra never actually will become queen, that she will have some type of scary ending, as was just highlighted here by Joffrey, talking about with a terrifying and wry chuckle how she was murdered by her brother's dragon while her son watched. Now, this might be a little bit into the future. There's a few factors here we need to keep in mind. One, she doesn't have a son, and she doesn't have a brother. That was a big part of these opening 2 episodes, was how she doesn't have a younger brother, and now she's getting a new mom, and one of these people will end up creating her younger brother who will want the claim to the throne. She doesn't seem like she wants to give it up. She's a very, very smart and outspoken individual who thinks she can rule, and I think wants to rule. But based off of what we're hearing from Joffrey, that's never going to happen because her younger brother's dragon is going to just completely end her, and her son's going to watch, which maybe her son's the Mad King, maybe not. It really depends how far into the future we're talking here and what the timeline ultimately ends up looking like. If you recall from Game of Thrones, this picks up right after Robert Baratheon, who is the new king of Westeros, following a revolution where the Mad King, a Targaryen, was finally defeated, and Robert Baratheon puts himself as king. And obviously from there, the entire Game of Thrones storyline goes through. But up until that point, as we've seen, 147 years before now, the Targaryens are ruling, and they're using their dragons to do so, and they're using their dragons to kill each other, including amongst siblings. So obviously anyone who sits on the Iron Throne is probably in the most danger out of everybody in the entire kingdom. And I just think it's an interesting and massive spoiler that now Game of Thrones is kind of tied to. Joffrey made one comment all the way back during some season of Game of Thrones, and just like that, we know the fate of one of the best characters Game of Thrones may have ever produced. And I get it, we're only 2 episodes in, but there are so many details about this character, about this child who is now heir to the throne, that I think we're really enjoying and connecting with on the screen. Obviously, first and foremost, she reminds us all of Daenerys, who definitely was most people's favorite character in Game of Thrones. I know there's a lot of Jon Snow fans. Heck, there are even some Cersei and Jaime Lannister fans out there, and all sorts of different. This is a massive fan base and a massive fantasy world with lots of different characters and insights. So that's cool, have your opinion. But based off of the populace, I would assume this character is one people are going to root for, and they're going to want to see her go the distance. But now that we know her fate, it's kind of disappointing. I remember when I first saw this update, which of course, like wildfire, is spreading all over the place, and everybody's getting it spoiled for them. Supposedly we'll call it a spoiler. I don't know if it truly is a spoiler if it comes from the episode or series itself. It's not like a leak or information that we know for certain because of a show that's already been released. We haven't seen the episode where she dies, but this has been information that's been out for years and years and years, and they're choosing to buckle down on it, or will they just pull out the easy, no, that was a different Rhaenyra, it doesn't count? I'm very curious to see how that plays out. But with that being said, when I found out about this news, I was honestly and genuinely a little disappointed to know what's going to happen in season 4 or 5 of House of Dragon. Now hopefully we'll get to see Rhaenyra for a while. I am a huge fan of her character, her confidence, kind of what she stands for. But we do know, based off of these facts, that she's never going to be queen. A woman has never ruled Westeros up until Cersei ended up doing so. So it is already written in stone that the way House of Dragon is going to, shift and meander throughout this plot has in many ways had details written for it. And that also means we're all going to be looking for specific things, like where is the Mad King? And where are other characters who have been mentioned throughout Game of Thrones, who have had a reign throughout the Targaryens' ruling of Westeros. But with that being said, I have absolutely loved the first 2 episodes. Also, like I mentioned, back in peak Game of Thrones time, a lot of reasons to be excited. So if you are a fan of Game of Thrones, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any cool Easter eggs, updates, reviews, and reactions to all of the craziness as it's coming out. And turn on that notification bell because, that's what heroes do. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and also let me know if you made it to the very end of the video, because I always like to interact with people who did that and give them a little emoji reward, which I think is heavily deserved. So thank you, everybody. I'll catch you in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.